On Thanksgiving Day, my son gave his father-in-law a brand new $50,000 truck. He gave me a $15 pair of earrings, still with the clearance sticker on them. A week later, he called me 43 times, screaming into my voicemail. But by then, regret was a luxury he could no longer afford. Let me back up. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe, hit the hype button, and support this channel with a like. And tell us below, have you ever faced something like this? The Reynolds mansion sat on 3 acres, in the kind of neighborhood where even the mailboxes cost more than my monthly mortgage. I pulled my 12-year-old sedan up the circular driveway, parking between a Tesla and a Range Rover, feeling exactly as out of place as they wanted me to feel. Kevin met me at the door, my son, 30 years old, wearing a cashmere sweater that probably cost what I spent on groceries in a month. Mom, he didn't hug me, just nodded. They're all in the dining room. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, I said. He didn't catch the sarcasm. Or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. That was Kevin now. Selective hearing, selective memory, selective son. The dining room looked like something out of a magazine spread. Crystal chandeliers, table long enough to seat 12. China so delicate, I was afraid to breathe near it. Brooke, my daughter-in-law, stood at the head arranging place cards with the precision of a military operation. Margaret, she air-kissed near my cheek, her perfume overwhelming. So glad you could make it. As if I'd been invited with any warmth, as if this wasn't obligation masquerading as family. Wouldn't miss it, I lied. Richard Reynolds, Kevin's father-in-law, dominated the room without trying. 61, silver-haired, the kind of man who thought his money made him wise. He shook my hand with the grip of someone asserting dominance. Good to see you, Margaret. Kevin's told us so much about you. I doubted that, and whatever he'd told them probably wasn't flattering. Evelyn Reynolds drifted in like expensive smoke, perfectly coiffed, perfectly dressed, perfectly condescending. Margaret, what a lovely sweater. It was a cardigan from Target, 3 years old, comfortable, but in this room, it might as well have been burlap. Thank you, I said, refusing to apologize for existing. Dinner was theater. Brooke directed every moment, when we sat, what we discussed, how we should react. She'd positioned herself as the star, Kevin as supporting actor, and me as the prop that didn't quite match the set design. The food was catered, expensive, and somehow tasteless despite the effort. I picked at my plate while Brooke described her latest influencer campaign. Something about wellness and authenticity that sounded neither well nor authentic. We're really building the brand, she explained, eyes bright with self-importance. 60,000 followers now. Brands are reaching out constantly. Kevin beamed at her like she'd cured illness. She's amazing. Real business mind. I bit my tongue. Literally bit it until I tasted copper. Brooke's business mind consisted of filtered photos and purchased engagement. But pointing that out would make me the villain, so I smiled and nodded and played my assigned role. Then came the gifts. Richard stood, wine glass in hand, face flushed with alcohol and self-satisfaction. Before dessert, I want to acknowledge someone special. Kevin, you've become like a real son to me. Your dedication, your vision, your understanding of what family means. It's rare. Kevin's chest puffed up. Evelyn clasped her hands. Brooke filmed it on her phone. So, Richard continued, Evelyn and I wanted to give you something that reflects how much you mean to us. He handed Kevin an envelope. Inside, keys. Truck keys, specifically. To the brand new pickup parked outside with a bow on it, gleaming even in the dark. Kevin's eyes went wide. Dad, Richard, I can't. You can and you will. Your family. They hugged. Real hugging. The kind Kevin used to give me before he decided I wasn't worth the effort. Brooke squealed and threw her arms around both of them. Even Evelyn looked genuinely pleased. Then Kevin turned to me. Mom, I got you something too. He handed me a small box. Gift-wrapped at least. I opened it carefully, aware of everyone watching. Earrings, simple studs, the kind you'd find in a clearance bin. And there, on the back of the packaging, the sticker confirming it. 75% off. Final sale. $15. The room went silent. Not awkwardly silent, worse. Pityingly silent. "They're nice," I managed. "I thought you'd like them," Kevin said, already turning away. "You don't really wear jewelry, so I figured simple was better." Brooke touched his arm, her voice dripping false sweetness. "So thoughtful, babe, understanding what people actually need instead of just being flashy." The message was clear. I didn't need flashy. I didn't deserve flashy. I should be grateful for clearance earrings while my son got a truck worth more than 3 years of my pension. "Thank you, Kevin," I said quietly. I meant it to sound gracious, but something in my tone made him glance at me sharply, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. Then Brooke laughed, and the moment passed. Dessert was pie I couldn't taste. Conversation I couldn't follow. I nodded and smiled and counted the minutes until I could leave. I was gathering my coat when I heard them. Brooke and Evelyn in the hallway outside the bathroom. They didn't know I was near. "Once we take her house, things will finally look right," Brooke said. "Kevin can't keep supporting her forever." "The property's worth quite a bit," Evelyn replied. "Richard's looked into it. Perfect for what we need. And she'll fight it. Please, look at her. She'll do whatever Kevin asks. She always does." I stood there, coat in hand, $15 earrings in my purse, and something cold settled in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Something calmer. More focused. Game on, I thought. I drove home in silence. My house, the one they wanted to take, was small. 3 bedrooms, paid off 5 years ago after my husband left me nothing but memories and a mortgage. The neighborhood wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Every payment, every repair, every decision, mine. I'd raised Kevin here, sent him to college from here, stood in that kitchen and believed I was building something that mattered. Apparently, I'd been wrong. Inside, I made tea and sat at the kitchen table. The earrings stared at me from their packaging. $15. Clearance. That's what I was worth to my son now. I thought about the truck, about Brooke's face when Kevin opened that envelope, about the way Richard called him like a real son. Then I thought about what I'd overheard. They wanted my house. They thought I'd just hand it over. They thought I was weak, compliant, easy to manage. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I needed. Jordan Fields. I'd worked with him years ago, helped him keep his job when his boss wanted him gone. A quiet favor, nothing dramatic. Just the truth presented properly to the right people. He'd told me then, "If you ever need anything, Meg, anything." I texted him, "Need to talk, legal stuff. Tomorrow?" His response came fast. "Of course. My office at 10. I confirmed and set the phone down. The tea had gone cold. The house was quiet. And somewhere inside me, something that had been dormant for a very long time began to wake up. They thought they knew me. Thought I was just Kevin's mother, the woman who didn't fit their world, the burden they needed to eliminate. They had no idea who I really was. Jordan's office was nothing like the Reynolds mansion. Small, practical, files stacked neatly, everything serving a purpose. He stood when I entered, concern creasing his face. "Meg, you sounded serious." "I am." I sat across from him and laid it out. Everything. The Thanksgiving humiliation, the overheard conversation, Kevin's distance, the earrings that somehow hurt more than the truck. When I finished, Jordan leaned back and exhaled slowly. "They're planning to pressure you into signing over your house." That's what it sounded like. "Do you know why? Richard Reynolds runs a contracting company. What does he need with residential property?" "That's what I need you to find out." Jordan pulled out his laptop. "Give me a few days. I'll dig into their financials, public records, business filings, anything accessible. If there's something off, I'll find it. And if there isn't, Then we make sure you're protected anyway. Your house is in your name alone, correct? Completely. Good. That means they can't touch it without your explicit consent. But Meg, he paused, if they're as connected as you say, they might try other pressure tactics. Social, emotional, financial. Can you handle that? I thought about Kevin's face when he handed me those earrings, about Brooke's smile, about the way they all looked at me like I was furniture they wanted to replace. I can handle it. All right. Jordan closed his laptop. I'll call you when I have something. In the meantime, act normal. Don't let them know you're suspicious. Normal, right. I stood to leave, but Jordan stopped me. Meg, one more thing. Whatever we find, whatever you decide to do, keep it legal, clean. I'll help you navigate anything, but I can't protect you if you cross lines. I'm not planning to cross lines, I said, just to draw some new ones. 3 days later, Kevin called. His voice had that false cheerfulness that meant he wanted something. Hey, Mom. How are you? Fine. Good, good. Listen, Brooke and I were thinking, why don't you come over for dinner tomorrow night? Just the three of us. More intimate than Thanksgiving. Intimate. As if we'd ever been intimate. As if he hadn't spent the last 2 years treating me like an obligation. Sure, I said. What time? 7. Nothing fancy, just family. Nothing about us was just family anymore, but I agreed and hung up. Jordan called an hour later. Found something, he said without preamble. Richard Reynolds is in trouble, big trouble. How big? His company's been losing contracts for 18 months. He's overextended on 3 commercial projects that went sideways. He's been moving assets around, trying to make things look stable, but the underlying structure is weak. So he needs money. He needs liquid assets and fast. But here's where it gets interesting. 6 months ago, he created a subsidiary company, Reynolds Recovery Solutions. It's technically a separate entity, but he's the primary shareholder. The company has been bidding on small municipal contracts, trying to generate quick revenue. And those contracts are public. Anyone can bid on them. Anyone can buy shares in companies that win them. Meg, if you wanted to, you could buy into his rescue operation. I processed that. What would that give me? Access, visibility into his finances, a seat at the table, and depending on how much you buy, potential influence over decisions. How much would I need? For a minority stake that still grants access, maybe 30,000. Your house is worth 10 times that. You could leverage it if you needed to. I'm not leveraging my house. Then use savings, retirement funds, whatever you're comfortable with. But Meg, think carefully. This isn't just about protecting yourself anymore. If you go this route, you're going on offense. I stared out my kitchen window at the backyard where Kevin used to play as a child, where I'd taught him to throw a ball, to ride a bike, to believe people who loved you didn't abandon you. Set it up, I said. I want in. Dinner at Kevin's house was exactly what I expected. Brooke performing domesticity, Kevin playing the attentive husband, both of them acting like we were a normal family having a normal meal. The house was beautiful, of course. They'd bought it with money from Brooke's parents, though they pretended Kevin's salary covered it. Everything matched, everything gleamed, everything screamed, "Look at us, we've made it." "This is delicious, Brooke," I said, forcing down salmon that tasted like cardboard. "Thank you. I've been working with a nutritionist. Balanced meals are so important." Kevin poured wine. Expensive, naturally. "So, Mum, we wanted to talk to you about something." Here it comes, I thought. Brooke and I have been discussing your situation. That house, all alone, maintaining it by yourself. It must be exhausting. I manage fine. But you shouldn't have to just manage, Brooke interjected, her voice sugary. You should be comfortable, relaxed, not worrying about repairs and property taxes and all that stress. Kevin leaned forward. We've been thinking, what if you downsized? Something smaller, easier to maintain. Maybe a condo. and we could help you handle the transition. Handle the transition. Sell the house, find you a nice place, take care of all the logistics. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. I sipped my wine, watching them both. Kevin's eyes wouldn't quite meet mine. Brooke's smile was fixed, practiced. That's very thoughtful, I said carefully. But I like my house. Of course you do, Brooke said. It has memories. But Meg, you have to think practically. You're not getting younger. What happens in 5 years when you can't manage the stairs? Or the yard work? Better to plan ahead. I'm 52, Brooke, not 90. Still, Kevin's voice had an edge now. It makes sense to simplify. And honestly, Mum, we could use your help too. Richard's company has some opportunities, but they need capital. If you sold the house, you could invest with him. Actually grow your money instead of just sitting on property value. There it was, the real ask. They wanted my house to save Richard's failing business. Let me think about it, I said. Kevin's jaw tightened. There's not a lot of time. These opportunities don't wait. I said I'll think about it. Brooke's smile never wavered, but her eyes went cold. Of course, it's a big decision. Take your time. Just not too much time. I left 30 minutes later, their fake concern ringing in my ears. In my car, I sat for a moment before starting the engine. My phone buzzed. Jordan. Papers are ready. You can sign tomorrow. Once you do, you're officially a minority shareholder in Reynolds Recovery Solutions. Send me the address, I replied. I'll be there at 9. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Kevin as a boy, the way he'd held my hand crossing streets, the way he'd called me his hero when I'd fixed his bicycle, the way he'd promised, at 8 years old, that he'd always take care of me. Somewhere between 8 and 30, that boy had disappeared. And the man who'd replaced him, I didn't recognize him at all. Morning came grey and cold. I dressed carefully, professional, composed. The woman going to sign those papers wasn't Kevin's mother. She was Margaret Hawkins, and she was done being underestimated. Jordan's office felt different this time. Official. Final. He'd laid out the documents across his desk, each page tagged with coloured markers where I needed to sign. This is the share purchase agreement, he explained. $32,000 for a 7% stake in Reynolds Recovery Solutions. It grants you access to quarterly reports, shareholder meetings, and internal financial documents. 7% isn't much. It's enough. You're not trying to control the company, just see inside it. And 7% means Richard can't make certain decisions without notifying shareholders, including you. I picked up the pen. It felt heavier than it should. Once you sign, there's no going back quietly, Jordan warned. Richard will know someone bought in. He'll figure out it's you eventually. Good. I signed my name across every marked line. Margaret E. Hawkins. Clear, decisive, permanent. Jordan witnessed each signature, then gathered the papers. I'll file these today. By tomorrow, you'll officially be part of Richard's rescue operation. Whatever he's planning, you'll see it coming. And Kevin? What about him? When he finds out? Jordan met my eyes. Meg, Kevin made his choice. Now you're making yours. I drove home with the windows down despite the cold. The air hurt my lungs, but I needed to feel something sharp, something real. For too long, I'd been numb, accepting Kevin's distance, Brooke's condescension, the Reynolds family's dismissal, acting like a guest in my own son's life. No more. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Mrs. Hawkins, a woman's voice, professional. This is Amanda Chen from Bright Social Media Analytics. We've been conducting a routine audit of influencer accounts, and your name came up as a contact reference for Brooklyn Reynolds Hawkins. Do you have a moment? An audit? Yes, ma'am. Standard industry practice. We verify follower authenticity, engagement rates, sponsored content compliance. May I ask, are you familiar with Ms. Reynolds Hawkins's social media presence? I know she has accounts. I don't follow them. I see. And you're listed as emergency contact in her business registration. Can you confirm her primary residence and business operation address? I gave her Kevin's address, curious where this was leading. Thank you. One final question. To your knowledge, has Ms. Reynolds Hawkins ever purchased followers or engagement metrics? I wouldn't know. Of course. Thank you for your time, Mrs. Hawkins. She hung up. I sat in my car, engine ticking as it cooled, and smiled. Someone was investigating Brooke's influencer empire. Someone official, thorough, potentially damaging. I hadn't made that call, but I couldn't say I was sorry someone had. Inside, I made coffee and opened my laptop. The share purchase documents were already in my email. I downloaded them, printed copies, filed them carefully. Then, I started reading everything Jordan had sent me about Reynolds Recovery Solutions. The company looked stable on paper. 3 municipal contracts in progress, 2 more pending. Revenue projections optimistic, but Jordan had highlighted the problems in red. Contract 1, behind schedule by 6 weeks, penalty clauses activating soon. Contract 2, materials costs exceeded budget by 40%, profit margin collapsed. Contract 3, client disputing final payment, threatening litigation. The pending contracts, they were Richard's lifeline. If he won them, he could cover the losses from the failing projects. If he didn't, the whole structure would collapse. And now I was part of that structure. My phone buzzed. Kevin. Mom, we need to talk. Can I come over? When? Now. He arrived 20 minutes later, parking aggressively in my driveway. Through the window, I watched him sit in his car for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. Then he got out and walked to my door, like a man heading to his own trial. I let him in, didn't offer coffee, just stood in my small living room, the one he'd grown up in, the one he now found embarrassing, and waited. You need to be reasonable, he started. About what? The house, Mom. This isn't a game. Richard's offering you something real. A chance to actually build wealth instead of just sitting on property. But you're being stubborn. I'm being stubborn. Yes. Brooke's father is trying to help you, and you're acting like we're attacking you. Do you know how that makes me look? How that makes you look? Stop repeating everything I say. His voice rose, frustration cracking through. This is exactly why we need to handle things for you. You don't understand how business works, how investments work. You're still living like it's 20 years ago. I looked at my son, really looked at him, saw the expensive watch, the designer clothes, the desperation hiding behind false confidence. Kevin, how much do you owe? He froze. What? The truck was $50,000. Your house is way beyond your salary. Brooke doesn't actually earn money from her influencer account. Those are purchased followers. Fake engagement. So, how much do you owe Richard? His face went pale, then red. That's none of your business. It became my business when you decided my house was the solution. We're trying to help you. You're trying to save yourself. There's a difference. He stepped closer, and for a moment, he looked like he might grab me. But something in my expression stopped him. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. Richard's not someone you want as an enemy. Neither am I. Kevin stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Then he turned and walked out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I stood alone in the silence, heart hammering, hand steady. Jordan called that evening. It's done. You're officially in. Shareholder meeting is next week. Will Richard be there? He chairs it. Meg, he's going to know something's off when he sees you. Let him wonder. There's something else. That audit on Brooke's social media accounts. It's real. And it's moving fast. Someone with real authority requested it. Who? I don't know. But her sponsors are starting to ask questions. If the audit finds what I think it'll find, her entire influencer business collapses, and with it, a significant chunk of the Reynolds family income. I processed that. How long? A week, maybe less. And if everything collapses at once, Brooke's income, Richard's contracts, Kevin's debts, then they'll be desperate, and desperate people make mistakes. After he hung up, I sat in my kitchen and thought about the boy Kevin used to be. The one who'd believed his mother when she said hard work mattered, integrity mattered, family mattered. That boy was gone, and the man who'd replaced him had tried to take everything I'd built. So I'd take everything he'd borrowed. Seemed fair. The shareholder meeting was held in a generic conference room at a Holiday Inn. Not the fancy venue I'd expected, which told me everything about Reynolds Recovery Solutions' actual financial state. If Richard had money, he'd flaunt it. This was desperation wearing a business suit. I arrived exactly on time. 6 other people sat around the table. Small investors, local contractors, people who'd bought in hoping for municipal contract windfalls. Richard stood at the head, arranging papers, his expression confident. He hadn't noticed me yet. Then he looked up. I watched the recognition hit. Confusion first, then calculation, then something between anger and fear. Margaret, he said my name like an accusation. I wasn't aware you'd joined us. 7%, I replied calmly. Purchased Friday, everything properly filed. Yes, I received the notification. He recovered quickly. Years of business training smoothing his features. Welcome aboard. Always good to have family invested in family business. Family. The word rang hollow. I took a seat at the far end of the table, pulled out a notebook, met Richard's eyes with absolutely no expression. The meeting started. Richard went through the agenda, current contracts, pending bids, projected revenue. Everything sounded optimistic, professional, entirely believable if you didn't know what Jordan had showed me. But I did know. When Richard opened for questions, I raised my hand. The Harrison Street project. You reported it's 90% complete, but the client filed a dispute last week. How does that affect timeline and payment? Silence. Every head turned toward Richard. His jaw tightened. That's a minor disagreement over specifications, nothing that affects our bottom line. Minor disagreements don't usually involve lawyers, I said. The client's attorney sent you a letter. I'd like that disclosed to shareholders. How do you... He stopped himself. Mrs. Hawkins, I don't think you understand the complexity of construction contracts. These kinds of issues are normal. Then sharing the letter shouldn't be a problem. Another shareholder, an older man named Tom, leaned forward. Actually, I'd like to see that too. Transparency's important. Richard's smile was ice. Of course. I'll have my assistant send documentation to all shareholders by end of week. I made a note. Watched him watch me. Let the silence stretch. The meeting continued, but the dynamic had shifted. Other shareholders started asking harder questions. Richard's answers got shorter, sharper. By the time we adjourned, his composure was cracking at the edges. I was gathering my things when he approached. Margaret, a word? We stepped into the hallway. Richard closed the distance between us, using his height as intimidation. It didn't work. What are you doing? He asked quietly. Protecting my investment. This is about the house. Kevin told me you're being difficult. Kevin told you I won't be manipulated. There's a difference. Nobody's manipulating anyone. We offered you a legitimate opportunity. You offered to solve your financial problems with my property. I declined. His face reddened. You have no idea what you're interfering with. These contracts, this company, it's bigger than your petty grievances. Petty grievances? You mean like buying your son-in-law a $50,000 truck while he gives his mother clearance earrings? Richard blinked. What? You wanted me to feel small, Richard. Mission accomplished. But here's what you didn't count on. Small people are harder targets. We know how to maneuver in tight spaces. I walked away before he could respond. Behind me, I heard him say something under his breath. I didn't care what. In my car, hands shaking with adrenaline, I called Jordan. How'd it go? Perfect. He knows I'm watching. And he's scared. Good, because I have news. The audit results came back on Brooke's account. 68% fake followers. Purchased engagement on 90% of posts. 3 sponsors already pulled contracts. The rest will follow. How long until she knows? She probably knows now. Meg, her entire income just evaporated. That's going to put massive pressure on Kevin and Richard. Let it. Are you sure about this? Because once everything starts collapsing, I'm sure. I drove home through afternoon traffic, mind racing. Everything was accelerating. Richard exposed at the meeting. Brooke's influencer empire crumbling. Kevin caught between them all, realizing too late that his mother wasn't the weak link in this chain. She was the anchor. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Kevin. I let it go to voicemail. 3 minutes later, another call. Then another. By the time I got inside, he'd called 6 times. I listened to the first message. Mom, what the actual... He caught himself. What are you doing? Richard called me. You bought into his company. Why? To spy on us? To sabotage something you don't even understand? Message 2. You need to call me back. Now. This isn't funny anymore. Message 3. Brooke's freaking out. Her sponsors dropped her. Did you have something to do with that? Did you call them? Message 4. Mom, pick up the phone. Message 5. Just breathing. Heavy, angry breathing. Then, you're making a huge mistake. I deleted them all and made dinner. Chicken, rice, vegetables. Normal food in my normal house that was worth more than Kevin wanted to admit. Halfway through eating, someone hammered on my front door. Not knocked, hammered. I looked through the peephole. Kevin and Brooke, both of them, standing on my porch like an angry committee. I opened the door, but left the chain on. What? Let us in, Kevin demanded. No. Mom. Kevin, it's 8 at night. You show up here without calling, pounding on my door. I don't owe you entry to my home. Brooke pushed forward, her face twisted with rage. All her polished influencer sweetness was gone. You sabotaged me. You called my sponsors. I didn't call anyone. You're lying. This happens right after Thanksgiving, right after we asked you to be reasonable about the house. That's not coincidence. Brooke, I don't know your sponsors. I don't know your business contacts. I barely know your real name. If your empire's collapsing, maybe you built it on sand. She tried to reach through the gap in the door. Kevin grabbed her arm, but his eyes were just as furious. You bought into Richard's company to hurt us, he said. I bought in to protect myself. There's a difference. You had no right. I had every right. It's a public company, Kevin. Anyone can buy shares. Or did you think I was too stupid to figure that out? I think you're being vindictive and petty. The words hit like a slap, but I kept my voice level. Vindictive would be buying a majority stake and voting Richard out. Petty would be showing up at your house demanding you justify every financial decision. I'm doing neither. I'm just watching my investment. This isn't over, Brooke hissed. Richard will what? Intimidate me? Threaten me? Please, tell him to try. I closed the door, locked it, stood there while they shouted through the wood, while they threatened and pleaded, and finally left. When their car pulled away, I sat on my couch and let myself shake, not from fear, from fury held too long under pressure. Jordan called an hour later. Kevin visited you. How did you... Your neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, called me. She has my number from when I helped with her estate planning. She was worried. Dear Mrs. Patterson, 78 years old and nosier than a bloodhound. I'm fine, I said. They're panicking. That's when people get dangerous. They won't hurt me. They need me. Meg, they need me to sign over the house, Jordan. That's their lifeline, which means I'm untouchable until I give them what they want. And I'm never giving them what they want. Silence on the line. Then, you've thought this through. Every angle. All right, but I'm documenting everything. Every call, every visit, every threat. If this goes sideways, we'll have evidence. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet house and thought about the woman I used to be. The one who'd believed in fairness, in family, in the idea that love was unconditional. That woman ceased to exist the moment Kevin gave her those clearance earrings and smiled like he'd made a generous gesture. This woman was just getting started. The next morning, I woke to 17 missed calls. All Kevin. No messages this time, just the calls themselves, desperate and demanding. I blocked his number. Within an hour, Brooke called from her phone. Blocked. Then from a number I didn't recognize. Blocked. Then Richard himself, his voice on my voicemail smooth and concerned. Margaret, I think we got off on the wrong foot. Why don't we have lunch? Talk things through like adults. My treat. I deleted it without responding. Jordan arrived at noon with a briefcase and worry lines. We need to talk about protection. I'm fine. Meg, you're not hearing me. Richard Reynolds has connections, lawyers, contractors, people who owe him favors. If he decides to make your life difficult, he won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do, because I'm the only thing standing between him and total financial collapse. I pulled out my laptop and showed Jordan what I'd been researching. Reynolds Recovery Solutions had 2 pending contracts, both critical, both large enough to save his company if he won them. The bids were due next week. If Richard loses these contracts, everything folds. The subsidiary, probably the main company too. He'll have to declare bankruptcy or sell everything. Jordan studied the screen. And you want to make sure he loses them? No, I want to make sure I win one of them. His head snapped up. What? The Riverside Municipal Contract, 23 acres of park renovation. I can bid on that. Meg, you're not a contractor. I don't have to be. I can partner with one. Someone reputable who needs the work. I provide the capital. They provide the expertise. We split it 60-40. Jordan sat back, processing. You're serious? Completely. Meg, this crosses a line. This isn't just protecting yourself anymore. This is actively destroying them. They tried to take my house to save themselves. I'm just playing the same game with better cards. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he opened his briefcase and pulled out his laptop. I know a contractor, Dave Brennan. Honest, experienced. His company took a hit during the recession, but he's rebuilding. He'd jump at this opportunity. Set up a meeting. Meg, set it up, Jordan. He made the call. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Dave Brennan in a coffee shop, listening to him explain park renovation logistics while my coffee went cold. Dave was 50 maybe, with calloused hands and eyes that didn't miss details. He'd brought blueprints, cost estimates, timeline projections. When I explained what I wanted, he didn't ask why. Just nodded and said, When do we submit? 3 days. We'll be ready. That evening, Kevin showed up at my door again. This time alone, and this time he looked broken. Mum, please, can we just talk? I let him in. Not because I forgave him, because I wanted him to see exactly who he'd underestimated. He sat on my couch, the one he'd watched cartoons on as a kid, and put his head in his hands. Brooke's destroying our apartment. Her sponsors won't return calls. Richard's screaming at me every day about the house. Everyone's acting like this is my fault. Isn't it? He looked up, wounded. I was trying to help everyone. You included. By taking my home? By giving you options. You're stuck here, Mom. Stuck in this house. Stuck in the past. I thought. You thought I was too weak to fight back. I thought you'd understand that sometimes family has to make sacrifices. Like you sacrificed me for a truck. He flinched. That's not fair. Fair? Kevin, you handed me $15 clearance earrings while accepting a $50,000 vehicle. You whispered with your wife about taking my house. You tried to manipulate me into saving your father-in-law's failing business, and now you want to talk about fair. I'm your son. You were my son. Now you're just the man who chose them over me. He stood abruptly. You've changed. No, I just stopped pretending I hadn't noticed what you became. He left without another word. I watched him drive away and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just cold, clear focus. 2 days later, Dave and I submitted our bid. It was competitive but not suspicious. Professional. Clean. Everything documented properly. Jordan called that night. It's in. Now we wait. How long? Municipal contracts. Could be a week. Could be 2. And Richard's bid. He submitted yesterday. But Meg, there's something you should know. His bid came in 20% lower than standard estimates. He's undercutting everyone to guarantee the win. Can he deliver at that price? Not without cutting corners or losing money. But desperate people don't think long-term. I thought about that. About Richard, so focused on winning that he'd set himself up for failure, even in victory. Let him think he's got it, I said. The following week crawled. I went about my normal life, groceries, library, coffee with Mrs. Patterson, who definitely knew something was happening, but was too polite to ask directly. Kevin called twice more from different numbers. I didn't answer. Brooke sent an email. You're destroying a family. I replied, I'm just protecting myself. Richard tried a different approach. He sent Evelyn. She arrived on a Thursday afternoon, dressed like she was visiting a charity case. I let her stand on my porch for a full minute before opening the door. Margaret, may I come in? No. Please, I just want to talk. Talk from there. She sighed, a practiced sound of disappointment. This situation has gotten out of hand. We're family. We should be working together. We were never family, Evelyn. I was the embarrassment you tolerated at holidays. That's not true. Your daughter called me clutter. You agreed. I heard you. Her composure cracked slightly. You were eavesdropping. I was standing in a hallway. You were careless. There's a difference. Fine. Yes, we made mistakes. But Richard's business is suffering. Brooke's career is destroyed. Kevin's caught in the middle. How much more do you want to hurt them? I want exactly what they tried to take from me. My dignity, my home, my peace. By ruining us. By protecting myself. If that ruins you, maybe you built your lives on too much borrowed money and too little integrity. Evelyn's face hardened. You'll regret this. I regret raising a son who thought clearance earrings were enough. Everything else is just math. She left. I closed the door and allowed myself a small smile. Jordan called the next morning. Contract decision came through. My heart stopped. And? You won. You and Dave won the Riverside contract. I sat down hard. We won. Your bid was better structured, better researched, and Dave's reputation sealed it. Richard's was too low. The committee saw it as risky. Meg, you just took a $180,000 contract away from the man who tried to take your house. When did they notify him? Today. I thought about Richard opening that email, seeing my name, realizing what I'd done. Jordan, what happens to his company now? Without this contract, he's got maybe 3 months before everything collapses. The subsidiary's done. The main company might survive if he sells assets, but his reputation's damaged. He underbid and lost. That makes him look desperate. Good. Meg, they tried to erase me, Jordan. Now they get to watch me rise. Richard found out at 2 p.m. I know because that's when my phone started ringing non-stop. Richard, Kevin, Evelyn, even Brooke, all of them over and over. I silenced my phone and made tea. By 4, they were at my door. All 4 of them. Richard pounding, Kevin pleading, Brooke screaming something about lawyers. I watched through the window as Mrs. Patterson called the police. 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes. I opened the door then, stepping out calmly, while the Reynolds family shouted over each other, trying to explain why they were there. "Ma'am, are you all right?" the younger officer asked. "I'm fine. They're upset about a business matter." "Business?" Richard spat. "You sabotaged us." "I submitted a legal bid to a public contract." "How is that sabotage?" "You knew we needed that contract." "Then you should have submitted a better bid." Kevin pushed forward. "Mum, you can't do this. You can't just destroy Richard's, everything he's built." "I didn't destroy anything. I competed. Fairly. Legally. If his business can't survive competition, that's not my problem." "You're doing this to hurt me," Kevin said, his voice breaking. "I'm doing this to protect myself. The fact that it hurts you is just unfortunate timing." One officer stepped between us. "Folks, this sounds like something for lawyers, not a front lawn. I'm going to ask you all to leave the property." Richard looked like he wanted to argue, but Evelyn touched his arm. They left, Kevin trailing behind, Brooke recording everything on her phone, like it would somehow help. When they were gone, the officers took my statement. Mrs. Patterson gave hers. Everything documented, everything official. "You need a restraining order?" the older officer asked. "Not yet, but I appreciate you asking." After they left, I went inside and finally looked at my phone. 43 calls, a dozen texts, all of them angry, desperate, threatening. Kevin's last voicemail said simply, "Mom, don't do this, please, don't do this." But I already had. That evening, Jordan brought champagne. "We're celebrating." "You just won a major municipal contract. We're absolutely celebrating." He poured 2 glasses. We sat in my small kitchen, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself relax. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now? Dave starts work next month. You collect your share of the profits, and the Reynolds family figures out how to survive without your house to bail them out." "Will they survive?" "Richard might. If he's smart, he'll sell the mansion, downsize, restructure. But his reputation took a hit. Evelyn will hate being less wealthy. Brooke's influencer career is over. She'll need real work. And Kevin will blame me forever. Probably." I sipped the champagne. It was good, expensive. Jordan had spent more on this bottle than Kevin had on my earrings. "I should feel guilty," I said. "I should feel like a terrible mother." "But you don't." "No, I feel free." We finished the bottle. Jordan left around 9. I cleaned up, did the dishes, prepared for bed like it was any normal night. But it wasn't normal. Everything had changed. I'd changed it. The next morning, I drove to the bank and set up a meeting with a financial advisor. The contract payments would start in 60 days. I needed to plan properly, invest wisely. "What are your goals?" the advisor asked. "Security, independence, making sure nobody can ever pressure me into anything again." "We can work with that." I also called a real estate attorney. Not to sell my house, never that, but to put it in a trust. Ironclad, untouchable. Even if something happened to me, even if I became incapacitated, nobody could take it. Especially not Kevin. The attorney read through my situation and nodded. "I can have this done in a week. Your house will be protected permanently." Perfect. On my way home, I stopped at the grocery store. In the parking lot, I ran into one of Brooke's old friends, another influencer, someone I'd met at a party once. "Oh, Margaret, hi." She looked uncomfortable. "Hello." "I heard about everything. That's so crazy. I mean, Brooke's devastated." "I'm sure." "She said you're the reason her sponsors left, that you called them and lied about her." "I never called anyone. Her sponsors left because someone audited her account and found purchase followers. That's not lying. That's math." The girl shifted her expensive purse. "Well, she's really struggling. No income, and Kevin's not making enough to cover their lifestyle. Then maybe they should adjust their lifestyle." That's kind of cold. So was trying to take my house, but nobody worried about that being cold. I walked away before she could respond, loaded my groceries, drove home. That afternoon, Dave called. Just wanted to say thank you. This contract is going to save my business. My crew's excited. We start preliminary work next week. You earned it, Dave. Your bid was solid. Yeah, but you made it possible. I know this was about more than just business for you. Maybe, but the work still matters. Do it well. We will, I promise. After we hung up, I stood in my kitchen and looked around. This house, my house, every payment made, every repair completed, every memory built. Kevin had grown up here. I'd thought I was building his foundation. Turns out I was building my own. 2 weeks later, Richard's main company filed for restructuring. The news hit the local business section. Small article, barely noticeable, unless you were looking for it. I was looking. Jordan called me immediately. Did you see? I saw. It's happening, Meg. Everything's unraveling for them. Good. There's more. The mansion's going on the market. They're selling. I processed that. The mansion where I'd spent Thanksgiving, where Kevin had given me clearance earrings, where Brooke had whispered about taking my house. Where will they go? Smaller place, probably rent. Richard's liquidating assets to keep the main company afloat, but it's going to be close. That evening, Kevin texted from yet another new number. Happy now? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, I'm secure. That's different from happy. He didn't respond. Dave's crew started work on the Riverside project. I drove by one morning to see the progress. Men in hard hats, equipment moving, everything professional and organized. Dave saw me and waved. I waved back. This was real. I'd actually done this. At the supermarket, I ran into Evelyn. She looked smaller somehow, less polished. Her clothes were still expensive, but something in her posture had changed. Margaret. Evelyn. We stood there, 2 women in the produce section, the air thick with everything unsaid. We're moving, she said finally. Downsizing. Richard says it's temporary, but I know better. I'm sorry it came to this. No, you're not. She was right. I wasn't. You destroyed us, Evelyn continued. Over what? Hurt feelings. A gift you didn't like. Over respect. Over being treated like I mattered. Over not being erased to solve your problems. Kevin's your son. Kevin's a grown man who made choices. Now he's living with them. He's struggling, Margaret. Brooke's depressed. They fight constantly. He's looking at bankruptcy himself because Richard can't help him anymore. Your grandson? I don't have a grandson. Evelyn blinked. Kevin and Brooke are trying. I know. Kevin told me months ago. But here's the thing, Evelyn. You don't get to use future grandchildren as leverage. That ship sailed when they tried to take my house. You're heartless. I'm protected. There's a difference. I left her standing there and finished my shopping. At checkout, my hands were steady. My conscience was clear. That night, Brooke called from a number I hadn't blocked yet. I hope you're satisfied, she said when I answered. We lost everything. The house, the business, my career. Kevin can barely function, all because you couldn't just help family. Family doesn't try to steal from each other, Brooke. We weren't stealing. We were offering you a better life. By taking mine apart? No thanks. You're destroying Kevin, your own son. What kind of mother does that? The kind who got tired of being treated like garbage. The kind who decided her dignity was worth more than her son's approval. The kind who learned to fight back. He loved you. He loved what I could give him. When I stopped giving, the love stopped too. That's not love, Brooke. That's transaction. She started crying. Real tears, not performed ones. We have nothing now. Nothing. You have each other. Isn't that what you wanted? To be a family without me cluttering the picture? I hung up. Jordan stopped by the next day with papers. House trust is finalized. Your property is completely protected now. Nobody can touch it, challenge it, or claim it. Even if you become incapacitated, it goes exactly where you specify in your will. Which is? You didn't specify yet. That's your choice. I thought about that. Kevin used to be my automatic answer. Everything I had would have gone to him without question. Can I leave it to charity? Absolutely. Then that's what I want. Set it up. Jordan made notes. Meg, are you sure? Kevin is still your son. Kevin is a stranger who shares my last name. Big difference. After he left, I sat alone and waited to feel something. Regret, sadness, doubt. Nothing came. The Riverside project progressed ahead of schedule. Dave sent me weekly updates, photos, timelines, budget reports. Everything clean and professional. You should come see it, he said during one call. It's really taking shape. I drove out on a Saturday. The park was transforming. New paths, restored landscaping, playground equipment being installed. Families would use this space. Kids would play here. Something good was being built. Dave walked me through the progress. We're under budget and ahead of schedule. At this rate, we'll finish a month early. That means bonus payments. Your crew earned it. We all did. Meg, I got to say, when Jordan first approached me, I thought this was some kind of scam, rich lady playing contractor. But you're the real deal. I just wanted to protect myself. Yeah, well, you protected a lot more than that. You gave 10 guys jobs. You're giving this community a better park. And you showed Richard Reynolds that undercutting everyone doesn't always work. We stood there watching the crew work, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. The mansion sold in 3 weeks. I only knew because Mrs. Patterson mentioned it. She had a friend who had a cousin who worked in real estate. Small-town networks. They took a loss, Mrs. Patterson said over coffee. Had to sell quick. Kevin and that wife of his moved to an apartment across town. 2 bedrooms. Can you imagine? After that huge house. I could imagine. I imagined it clearly and felt nothing. How are you doing, dear? Mrs. Patterson asked. All this drama, it must be exhausting. I'm fine, really. You look different, lighter somehow. She was right. I'd lost weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. Stress weight, worry weight, the weight of constantly apologizing for existing. Kevin tried one more time. He showed up at my door on a Tuesday evening, looking thinner, older, defeated. Mom, please, can we talk? I let him in. One last time. He sat on the couch and put his head in his hands. I'm sorry for all of it. The earrings, the house, believing Richard over you. I was stupid. Yes, you were. Brooke and I are separating. She blames me for everything. Says I destroyed her career by having a crazy mother. I'm not crazy, I'm just not a victim. I know, I see that now. He looked up, eyes red. Is there any way to fix this? To go back? Go back to what, Kevin? To you treating me like an inconvenience? To your in-laws planning my erasure? To clearance earrings and fake smiles? I said I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. It's just a word people say when consequences arrive. So that's it. I'm not your son anymore. You'll always be the boy I raised, but that boy's gone. And the man who replaced him tried to take everything I built. I can forgive eventually, Kevin, but I'll never forget, and I'll never be vulnerable to you again. You won. All right? You won. Richard's business is collapsing. Brooke left. I'm out of money. You tore everything apart. Is that enough for you? I didn't destroy anyone. I just stopped letting you destroy me. He stood up, anger flashing. You could have helped. You could have been a real mother and helped your family. Real mothers get real sons, not opportunists in good lighting. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. The earrings. I didn't know about the clearance sticker. Brooke bought them. I just wrapped them. That makes it worse, Kevin. You didn't even pick them yourself. He left without another word. I watched through the window as he got into a car I didn't recognize, probably borrowed, and drove away. Mrs. Patterson knocked an hour later with cookies. I saw Kevin leave. You okay? I'm perfect. And I was. The next morning, Jordan called with news. Richard's filing bankruptcy, the main company, the subsidiary, everything. It's over for him. Completely over. He'll survive. He's skilled enough to get hired somewhere. But his empire-building days are done. He'll be working for someone else, taking orders, starting over at 61. I thought about Richard's face when he'd dismissed me at Thanksgiving, his confidence, his certainty that I was nobody important. What about Kevin? Working retail. I saw his name on a list. He's at that outdoor equipment store on 5th Street. Part-time. Kevin, who'd been so proud of his marketing title, selling tents and hiking boots. It should have made me sad. It didn't. Dave called that afternoon. Project's wrapping up early. Final inspections next week. Meg, we did it. We actually did it. You did it. I just signed checks. You did more than that. You believed in this when nobody else would. The city council's already asking if we'll bid on another project. Will you? Only if you're in. I smiled. Send me the details. That week, the Riverside Park project passed final inspection with perfect marks. The local paper ran a story. Small, back page, but there it was. My name. Dave's name. Something real we'd built. I cut out the article and put it on my refrigerator, right where Kevin's childhood drawings used to hang. Brooke called one last time. I'm leaving. Moving back east to my family. This town, this life, it's over for me. I'm sorry you're hurting. No, you're not. You wanted this. I wanted safety. You interpreted that as attack. Kevin's broken. You know that, right? He just stares at walls, won't eat, won't talk. You destroyed your own son. I didn't destroy him. I just stopped saving him from himself. I hope you can live with that. I sleep fine, Brooke. Do you? She hung up. That night I made dinner for one. Chicken, rice, vegetables, normal food in my normal house that was still mine. Everything was mine. Jordan stopped by with champagne again. Another celebration. Project bonus came through. You cleared 40,000 profit, and Dave wants to partner on 2 more bids. We toasted, drank, talked about future projects, investment opportunities, the business I was accidentally building. You're good at this, Jordan said. The contracts, the strategy, the long game. You should consider doing more. More revenge plots. More business. You've got instincts, Meg. Real ones. I thought about that. About the woman I'd been versus the woman I'd become. About weakness that looked like strength, and strength that looked like weakness. Maybe I will. Winter arrived early, cold and sharp. I drove past Kevin's apartment once, not planning to, just happening by. His car sat in the lot, covered in snow nobody had brushed off. Lights were on in a second-floor window. I didn't stop. Dave's crew finished the final touches on Riverside Park. The city held a small dedication ceremony. Mayor, council members, local families. Dave asked if I wanted to speak. No, this is yours. Take the credit. But when the mayor mentioned our investors who made this possible, people clapped, and a few looked at me. I nodded, accepted it. Afterward, a council member approached. Mrs. Hawkins, I'm Janet Torres. I chair the Parks and Recreation Committee. I was impressed with your work here. Thank you. We have another project coming up, larger scale, community center renovation. Would you and Dave be interested in bidding? I looked at Dave. He grinned. Send us the details, I said. Janet handed me her card. I will. It's good to see local investors stepping up. Richard Reynolds used to handle most of our contracts, but, well, I heard about his troubles. Shame, really, but his work was always just adequate. Yours is better. After the ceremony, I walked through the finished park. Kids on new playground equipment, families on restored paths, benches with plaques naming donors. I'd done this. Me. The woman Kevin thought was too weak to protect herself. Jordan called that evening. Heard about the ceremony. Congratulations. Thanks. There's something else. Kevin applied for a loan. Bank contacted me as a reference. They saw my name in his financial records. I didn't approve it. Why tell me? Because he's trying to start over. Legitimately. He's working 2 jobs now, saving money, looking at community college courses. It's hard for him, but he's trying. I absorbed that. Good for him. You could help him, Meg. Not with money, just, I don't know. Let him know he's not completely cut off. He cut himself off. Fair enough. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen and thought about the boy Kevin used to be. Before wealth, before Brooke, before he learned to value things over people. That boy deserved help. But that boy was gone. The next bid came through. The community centre project. Dave and I spent 2 weeks preparing. Research, cost analysis, realistic timelines, everything professional. We submitted it jointly. Hawkins Brennan Development, our company, actual company. Jordan had filed the paperwork, made it official. You're a businesswoman now, he'd said, grinning. I'm a woman protecting her interests, same as always. But it felt different, bigger, real. Kevin called from a new number I hadn't blocked. I almost didn't answer. Mum, I know you don't want to hear from me. I wanted to say I got accepted into a program. Business management, community college. I'm trying to learn how to actually do things instead of just talking about them. That's good, Kevin. Yeah, it's hard, working and studying and living in a tiny apartment. But it's mine, you know? I'm not borrowing it or pretending. It's actually mine. I understand that. Silence on the line. Then, I saw the article about the park. You and some contractor. I didn't know you were doing that. There's a lot you don't know about me. I'm learning that. He paused. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. Okay. Bye, Mom. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding the phone, feeling something crack in my chest. Not enough to change anything, just enough to hurt. Mrs. Patterson noticed. You look sad today, dear. Just thinking about my son. The one who tried to steal your house. That's the one. He learning anything? Maybe. Too early to tell. She patted my hand. You did right, Margaret. Don't let anyone tell you different. Sometimes love means letting people face their consequences. Even when it hurts? Especially then. The community centre bid announcement came on a Thursday. Dave called me, shouting, We got it! Meg, we got it! Are you sure? Just got the official email. Hawkins Brennan Development wins the contract. $230,000, 18 months of work. I sat down hard. 2 major contracts in 6 months. This was real. This was actually happening. Dave, I need to tell you something. I didn't get into this just for business. I was trying to hurt someone. Richard Reynolds. Yeah, I figured. And that doesn't bother you? Why would it? Your motivation got us here. Your work keeps us here. Whatever happened before is between you and them. All I care about is you're a solid partner who pays attention and does things right. After we hung up, I walked through my house. The one Kevin had wanted to take. The one Richard had planned to use saving his empire. The one that was still, completely, eternally mine. I'd protected it, protected myself, and somehow, accidentally, built something new. Not bad for a woman whose son thought clearance earrings were enough. The final shareholder meeting happened on a grey Tuesday. Richard had called it, required by law, before officially dissolving Reynolds Recovery Solutions. I didn't have to attend. I went anyway, same Holiday Inn conference room. But this time, only 4 people showed up. Richard looked like he'd aged 10 years. Evelyn wasn't there. The other shareholders were men I didn't know, all looking annoyed at having to witness the ending. Richard started the meeting mechanically. As you know, Reynolds Recovery Solutions is filing bankruptcy. Assets will be liquidated. Shareholders will receive pennies on the dollar. I'm sorry. Tom, the older shareholder, leaned forward. What happened, Richard? You had contracts. You had momentum. We lost a critical bid. Then another. The company couldn't sustain. You lost bids to her. Tom pointed at me. To Margaret. Twice. All eyes turned to me. I met Richard's gaze steadily. Fair bids, I said. Legal bids. Better bids. You sabotaged us, Richard said quietly. You knew we needed those contracts. Then you should have submitted better proposals. Or not tried to take my house. The room went silent. Your house? Tom looked between us. What's this about? Richard's son-in-law is my son, I explained calmly. Last Thanksgiving, they decided my property would solve Richard's financial problems. They planned to pressure me into signing it over. I declined. Then I made sure they couldn't use my resources to save themselves. Tom started laughing. Actually laughing. You tried to take her house and she destroyed your company instead. Richard, you idiot. She had no right. She had every right. Tom stood up. She competed legally. You lost. That's business. And from what I'm hearing, you deserve to lose. Richard's face went red. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You got greedy. You got sloppy. And you underestimated someone you shouldn't have. That's on you. The meeting dissolved. Papers were signed. The company was officially done. I was gathering my things when Richard approached. I hope you're happy. I'm secure. That's better than happy. Kevin's working retail. Brooke left him. My business is gone. Evelyn barely speaks to me. You destroyed everything. No, Richard. You gambled everything on taking something that wasn't yours. When that failed, everything else failed too. That's not destruction. That's just consequences. He was your son. He made his choice. So did you. So did I. I walked toward the door. Kevin was waiting in the hallway. He looked terrible. Thinner. Exhausted. But his eyes were clear. Mom. Kevin. I heard you were here. I wanted to... He stopped. Started again. Richard just texted me. It's really over. Yes. Because of you. Because of him. I just protected myself. Kevin nodded slowly. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. The earrings. The clearance earrings from Thanksgiving. I kept these. Don't know why. Maybe to remember what I did wrong. He held them out to me. I don't want them, I said. I know, but I need you to take them anyway. Please. I took the box, felt the weight of $15 and a destroyed relationship. I'm trying to be better, Kevin said. I'm in school, working, learning how things actually work instead of just pretending. But, Mom, I need to know, is there any chance, ever, that we could... No. The word was final. Absolute. Kevin's face crumpled. I'm your son. You were my son. Now you're someone I used to know who taught me what I'm worth. I made mistakes. You tried to erase me to impress people who didn't care about you. That's not a mistake, Kevin. That's a choice. Richard emerged from the conference room. Saw us. His expression went dark. This is your fault, he said to Kevin. If you'd handled your mother properly... Don't, Kevin said quietly. Don't blame me for your failures. Richard's eyes widened. Kevin continued. You told me she was weak, that she'd fold. That family meant she'd do whatever we asked. You were wrong about all of it. I was trying to save everything. By stealing from someone who never hurt you. Yeah, real noble. Richard looked between us, something breaking in his face. Then he walked away without another word. Kevin and I stood alone in the empty hallway. I don't forgive you, I said. I want you to know that. I don't forgive you, and I won't forget. But Kevin, I hope you actually learn from this. I hope you become someone worth knowing. Will you ever give me another chance? I don't know. Maybe. But it won't be soon, and it won't be easy, and it won't ever go back to what it was. I walked toward the exit. Kevin called after me. Mom, wait. Please. I turned, looked at him one last time. saw everything he used to be and everything he'd become. Then I set the earring box on the hallway table between us. This is all you're getting back from me. Everything else I'm taking. Kevin lunged forward, reaching. Mom, don't. But I was already walking away, pushing through the doors into cold winter air. Behind me, I heard him calling, but I didn't stop, didn't look back. I got in my car, started the engine, pulled out of the parking lot. Kevin stood in the doorway, small and distant in my rearview mirror. I drove home to my house, my completely, legally, eternally protected house, where I'd built a life, raised a son, and finally learned to save myself. The earring stayed on that hallway table. I never looked back.